Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Tuesday, the 19th of February, comes to you from London. US markets were closed yesterday for the President's Day, so we're seeing just a little bit of inaction in the markets, not much movement. The dollar is just bearish short term, sold off on the last few days, so we're just seeing the dollar index there below the cloud. And if we look at the euro against the dollar, that's looking a bit stronger as a result, but we've still got these downside targets hanging over us. So dollar strength, euro weakness is still pretty much the theme despite the short-term trends. Dollar is actually recovering against the yen, and that's normally a lead indicator, so it does suggest the dollar will recover back to short-term bullish territory against most currencies. Against sterling, we're seeing sterling is actually rising against that weaker dollar. So it's looking short-term bullish, but we still do have these big downside targets hanging over us longer term. All about Brexit, of course. We have to wait and see what happens, but the market is, at the moment, poised for sideways, so it doesn't really know until we get a decision. The euro-sterling chart, sterling is looking stronger as well, and against the Swiss franc, we see that we're rising here too. The Aussie dollar we're seeing is sterling looking stronger there as well. Bitcoin is up about 0.5%. It's actually just got a little mini trend over the last couple of days. The first real movement we've seen in a while. You can see here for several weeks we've just gone sideways. We are just ticking up. We've got a lot of work to do to turn bullish on the long-term chart, but the medium-term chart is starting to show some signs of life, but no really clear upside targets. On the short-term chart there is a target of 12%, so we may see the cryptocurrency come back, but it's been a pretty bad 12 months all round. Of course, the US markets were shut, so it'll be interesting to see how we open today. No real heads up from the futures at the moment. The S&P future is virtually unchanged, and the Nasdaq E-mini is up 0.1%, so too early to call which way the US stock markets will open today. FTSE 100 is down 0.25% this morning, still bullish on the short term, not quite clearly through on that medium-term daily chart, but it is looking still relatively robust above the cloud there on the 60-minute chart. And mid-caps, similar picture, just emerging out of the downtrend for the medium term. We've got an upside target here, some 23% higher on the 0.5% point and figure chart, but we haven't yet activated that target. We need to effectively move above the high that we've seen. So we've got that little high there. We've just got to go above that and activate that target. So it'll be quite interesting to see that. The DAX is virtually unchanged this morning, not looking quite as bullish as the UK market, still just struggling on the medium-term chart, and the CAC 40 is down very slightly, but looking a little bit better than the DAX, just again coming out of these medium-term cloud charts. So we're seeing pretty much across the board markets just coming through here, and that will be the key. Can we keep this recovery going, or is this a resistance point? Japanese market was up 1/3%. So that's still got work to do to get into bullish territory on the medium term, but short term bullish. The Hang Seng was down 0.4%, but the trends still look pretty good there on recovery. And the Chinese market was little change, holding on to its gains is the main thing. So we have seen this year China actually really looking pretty good and having quite a strong start to the year, but we've still got these big downside targets hanging over us. The Indian market, the Sensex was up 0.6%, so still not enough to turn the market bullish, but on the short-term chart. But all of these long-term upside targets still makes India one of the best-looking markets going. The Australian market also looking better, and Brent crude. If we look to commodities now, just fairly flat the last day or two, but holding on to its gains of last week, so still looking pretty bullish. And WTI, similar picture, of course. Work to do to get through on that medium-term chart. We've got this nearly 10% upside target and 1.5% on the short term, so it'll be interesting to see if we can actually do that. We're in the strong quarter for crude oil, so we wouldn't be surprised to see that move all the way another 10% higher. US nat gas sitting at $2.65, not much change there, a little bit more bullish on the short-term chart. Gold has been the big one. Gold actually yesterday making multi-month highs, really almost to May last year. So we see here we closed at a level, the highest level we've seen since May last year. So that's giving us 10-month highs. And if we can take out these highs that we saw at the start of last year, we'll start to be seeing 5-6 year highs in gold. So that's looking pretty strong. Most of all, we've activated the upside targets here. 1417, that would be a new 6-year high, 6% higher, and $1,535 is the next stop according to the short-term chart. So gold is looking pretty strong, and the last few days have been very strong, and we're back into that clearly bullish long-term territory. We'll probably find we do get resistance around the sort of 1360, 1370 level, so shouldn't be surprised to see that it won't just go to that 1400 in one go. Silver also looking a little bit better on the short-term chart, not quite as positive as gold on the long-term charts, but still looking pretty good. So we've got strength showing through there. US 10-year yields sitting at 2.66%. So we are just seeing a little bit of a change there, but it's still not a great picture for the short-term chart. And German bonds just ticking down, so yields just ticking up, meaning bond prices are just ticking down on the short term, but still medium and long-term bonds looking pretty strong. Taking a look at stocks, we won't bother looking at the Nasdaq because that was closed last night. We see here that we had mostly green in Asia, so pretty good performance there. We go straight to the Aussie market, just looking for the strong performers, clicking on the top here. These prices all coming live from Yahoo Finance. We've got Altium Limited up 20%, and that chart making new highs, looking quite spectacular. Interesting that we had this target in place to $44 given way back. We can actually just look at that 0.5% chart. That was given back at $20, and now we're still got another 35% to go on that target, but we're seeing a big jump there. The outperformance some 75% better than the Dow, so not all stocks are falling. That's really quite interesting. IOF holdings up 16%, not a great chart by comparison. We're still in a downtrend there. And if we look at the other end of the spectrum, we have got some pretty big fallers too. We've got Black Mowers down 24%. That's a pretty scary looking chart. And Emeco down 24% as well. Although this chart is a little bit harder to read because of that big jump there. And Saracen Mineral Holdings down 9%, but holding on to its trend. The Chinese market we see here is quite a mixed picture. It was, some stocks, Orient Securities up 14%, Sanan up 13%, but some of these trends are still pretty seriously down. This one underperforming the Dow Jones Index by nearly 55% over the past year. Taking a look at the Nifty 50, so we've got just percentage-wise, Vedanta Limited, they're up 4%, so looking a bit better there, but the charts are still pretty terrible, to be honest. Bearish on the medium and long-term charts, underperforming the market by more than half. So been a tough year for Vedanta. ICICI Bank up 3%. They're looking a little bit better and actually holding on to the bull trends, and one upside target there, some 70% higher. So quite interesting there. And then Gracium up nearly 3%. Taking a look at the other side of the coin, we've got a handful of fallers here. We see here the live prices coming in now from Yahoo. My system's set every minute to just poll the prices and pull them in so that my charts are up to date. NTPC is 2.7% lower, and that chart not looking great either. Moving across to European markets, we start by looking at the FTSE 100. The stocks at the moment, TUI, the best performer this morning, up nearly 2%, but that's not really changing the picture very much for TUI. That's a terrible looking chart. Intercontinental hotels looking quite a lot better, bullish on all three time frames, with some upside targets here as well. Micro Focus is also showing really good signs of recovery here, not quite bullish yet on the long-term chart, and a little bit of a shortage of targets, so that is quite a concern. And we're seeing quite a lot of stocks here in the rises this morning. About 5 or so stocks in the FTSE 100 up more than 1%. HSBC down 3.5%. They disappointed on their numbers, so that has sent the shares lower, and they are looking bearish long term. So that's quite interesting. And banks coming down with it. Standard Chartered down nearly 2% in sympathy with HSBC, as you might expect. So we are seeing that some fallers there. Rickett and Benckiser yesterday were good performer. Today they've gone the other way. So it's interesting. We're just seeing that the market giving that back up. The FTSE 250, the mid caps in the UK. Griggs is the star this morning, up 9%. The veggie sausage roll really making a difference there, and they're really saying they've had a strong start to the year, and we're seeing that really showing through in the chart. Spectacular chart here, and we've still got an upside target on the 1% chart. This is a massive breakout, and normally you'd see a move into the pattern and then a similar move out. This says we've got another 50% to go, so it's quite interesting. You look at that chart and you think it's gone too high to buy it, but we are seeing those upside on two different charts, so that's a cluster. Outperforming the Dow, actually we've gone from 70% underperformance in October to 20% overperformance in February. So in 6 months we've really outperformed the Dow by more than half, so that's fantastic. Just looking at a couple of the others here, FDM Group up 7%, and First Group up 4%, and Galliford Try up 3.5%. Taking a look at the Euro Stock 600, the performances this morning, Wirecard IG just recovering after a terrible few weeks, just starting to bounce back off the bottom, but you'd be brave to buy this chart, still in bearish territory. Heidelberg Cement in Germany also just starting to show signs of recovery. Here we see the prices coming in again from Yahoo Finance. And then if we look at William Dermott Holding, down 6%, so that's quite key. HSBC figuring in those laggards in Europe. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.